Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new and approved First Day Talk. Before we get into this, I'll give you an opportunity to ask me any questions that you want. As a little bit of background, I have been teaching for 19 years. I've spent the last 5 of them in Butte camps. I used to run a school called Galvanize for about 3 years. You guys are my 34th cohort, and I think one of you was my 700th student. They got jobs, so will you. Before all this, I worked in the music industry, in the same way that everybody works in the music industry, which is doing a little bit of everything. So I did teaching, I did performance, I was an audio engineer. I managed the Guitar Center on County Line for a couple of years. I worked as a pro audio marketer. So several of the fine brands you see behind me, I was their Rocky Mountains rep. KRK, Presonus, Ultimate Support, Blue Microphones, Genelec, and like a dozen other brands, MXL, Marshall. Cool. That's a little bit about me. What do you want to know?
Of your 700 students, how many have been dismissed from your classes?
Probably 25 or so. So like not none, but it's pretty rare.
What got you into coding?
Eric first, what was your question?
How often does somebody repeat a module?
That one's more common. That's probably, I don't know, 1 or 2 every go. 1, 2, 3, somewhere in there. Some mods are a little bit trickier than others. But it's a shocker if it doesn't happen to anyone. And I would be super curious if it were more than like 3 or 4. So somewhere in there.
Which module is the difficult one?
They're all difficult in different ways. Probably the gnarliest one is 2. 2 is like mile wide, inch deep. So there's just a shit ton of different things that we don't go into a ton of depth on. And then we get that depth in the 3rd module. The second one's easy.
Got it.
What else?
Yeah, what got you into coding, and like how long did it take to feel comfortable with learning coding?
Excellent. So I got into coding because I was tired of being poor. So like I imagine many of you are. So I thought I wasn't smart enough to be a programmer. So I went back to school for information systems. I want to be a database guy. I'd worked with databases before in like a temp job, and I kind of liked them, and I was sort of good at them. So I got a job as a database engineer, and they said, "Oh, psych, we need you to do a bunch of programming, actually." And I was like, "Oh, I'm a terrible programmer. You probably don't want me to do that." And they said, "Cool, do you want the job?" I was like, "All right, let's throw some gram, baby." And then after a while, I was just kind of faking it. And then after a while, I wasn't really faking it anymore. And at some point, I was pretty good at it. And then I started teaching other people how to do it. So how long? So the deeper answer to that is like, I'm still not comfortable with it. That's not you always feel dumb in this business. It's just incomprehensibly big. The thing that changes is your relationship with that feeling. It stops being a thing that you're ashamed of or worried about. You go, oh, bother. Here's another thing that I kind of feel dumb about and don't really understand. I'll probably come out the other side of it, just like I did the last 2,000 times. I've been learning a lot of Java lately, and it is verbose, and I don't like it. And I don't think it's a very good language. And part of that is because it makes me feel bad about myself all the time. So I don't know. I'm like 13 years into this, still happening to me. I'll let you know. What else? What else you want to know about me?
What made you switch over from galvanized to Flatiron?
I told the board of directors that they should fire the CEO, and they didn't agree with me. So you tend not to last too long at a place when you do that. So after that, I worked as a technical lead for a VR education company. So they do VR education for doctors and nurses. There's a lot of stuff in medicine that you need muscle memory on. And so the way they typically do that is with simulations. They hire actors and stuff, and they have these these scenarios that they go through, and you just drill on them pretty regularly. And they're super expensive and complicated to schedule. So we had a VR solution for that, where like our main product is called Fire in the OR. And it so you're doing throat surgery on someone and their face catches on fire. Believe it or not, this happens kind of a lot. And it's really not that big of a deal because there's all these like oxidizers and stuff in an operating room. And the way they do throat surgery is with a thing called an electrosurgical pencil. It looks like a pencil with a little heating element on the end. And all of that together leads for opportunities for fires. It's not that big a deal if you can do the correct sequence of things in the right order. But the only way you're going to be able to do that is with the muscle memory, by practicing. And so we had a VR training thing for that. So I worked on that for about 9 months. But my heart longed for the classroom again. Josh Cooper and I were on the same team at Galvanize, and he was taking over this campus. And I said, please, 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 will you please let me teach at your school? And then he ghosted me for like 2 weeks. And then once the Flatiron lawyer said that we could talk together, he's like, yes, of course you can. And then, so I've been here since day one at the Denver campus.
Awesome. Yeah, I toured when I came to Denver over spring break from Columbus, and I toured Galvanize and Flatiron. Those are the two boot camps I toured, and went with Flatiron. So that's interesting.
You made the right choice. I mean, the program that I taught there doesn't exist anymore. When they bought Hack Reactor, it was like a hard cutover to the Hack Reactor thing, which I don't think there's a whole lot of educational validity in how they structure that program. I think it's a finishing school for Stanford CS kids. It's like almost pure signal. Nothing that they do in that program has like a whole lot of sound basis in educational theory, but whatever. God bless them.
Kyle, I'm not sure if I missed this, but where are you from originally?
Seattle.
Seattle.
Born and raised, lived in Seattle, all over the east side for about 20 years. And then I moved to Las Vegas for a few years, and I've been in Colorado since 2006.
Got it.
Cool. What else do you want to know about me?
Did you recently become a Denver Broncos fan, or were you originally a Seahawks fan?
I was originally not a football fan. I got into football probably 6 years ago, I want to say. It started by, I was like, this will give me an opportunity to have something to talk about with real men. And so I was like, I was going to pretend to like football so that I could talk around the water cooler with the guys. And I pretended for about 2 games. And by the end of that, I was sold. So this is like towards the end of Peyton Manning's career. And I just never seen anything like it. They wheel this old guy out onto the field, and he just gets in everybody's head. And he wins games like Professor X just by being a human football computer and psyching everyone out. It was so fucking cool. And then, so yeah, I've been pretty hardcore for the last 6 years or so. But before that, I was one of these, yeah, stupid sports ball. I'm an artsy musician. No, but it's awesome. So if that sounds familiar to you, like, give it a shot, because it's worth getting into.
I don't understand why it stops all the time though. It makes me realize why it takes so long.
Yes.
But I was just like, seems like there's 500 different reasons that the play could have stopped. I'm like, I don't think that I can.
That is absolutely true. Like, number of total minutes that like action is happening in a game boils down to about 15. But they're physically brutal 15 minutes. So like they need a lot of opportunities to breathe.
Here's a random question for you, Kyle. What's the most unexpected / random event that's happened since you guys have gone fully virtual? Like, I'm sure you saw that broadcaster, his kids ran in behind him when he was giving the presentation.
Oh, yeah. God, what has been the weirdest thing? Nothing like super dramatic. I want to say that there was, during like a capstone showcase, somebody's mom was not so handy with like the mute button, and it took us a while to find her in the thing. And I know that was just like a fairly minor embarrassment, I think, for whoever it was, because it wasn't even like during their presentation. It was like, who the fuck is talking? Is like, oh, it's Sam's mom or something. So like it was a little embarrassing, but I can't say we've had anything like too dramatic. Anything else? All right, let's dig in. So this is a new version of this talk. I've done this talk a bunch of times, but I'm trying to improve on it based on some things I took out of the last one. Okay, so this talk is called "This Is Not College." I'm going to split this into 3 sections. This is what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the day. So education stuff. We're going to talk about Geek Camp kinds of things. We're going to talk about some culture stuff, and then we're going to do a relatively quick exercise. So we'll take some breaks in here too. My main goal for this, there's probably not a ton of specific things that I expect you to recall out of this talk. This is more a particular way that I want you to feel about this school and your time here and your relationship with your cohort mates. And so I'm trying to craft a compelling reason for you to feel a particular way about this. This is the goal of these next 3 hours. All right, so let's start with some of the ed stuff. So some of this is like some like cognitive psychology and ed theory kinds of things that underpin a lot of the things that we do. And some of these might be surprising to you. So first I want to talk about signaling theory briefly. So I mentioned this earlier. This is kind of what college is all about. Believe it or not, the outcome of college is not and has basically never been that you learn a bunch of things. You learn some things. But the primary benefit of college is signaling. So the things that college signals are that you are intelligent. So it's like cognitively a pretty big workout. So if you can get through the end of high school, college, master's program, PhD program, you're signaling something to a future employer about your intelligence. Now, could you not do a similar thing with like an IQ test or something like that? Well, of course you could, but it's not the only thing that it signals. Another thing that it signals is that you are conscientious. This is that you work hard, you pay close attention, and you can stick to something and finish it. And then the last thing that it signals is that you conform. You do the things that are expected of you. You don't go try to color outside the lines too much. And all of these as a package are what's signaled by having a degree. A lot of you have degrees. This is what your like education credentials are signaling to a future employer. Not that you can do any particular thing. You can forget everything you learned in every single class that you took, but you still offer this. The reason I'm talking about this is that boot camps do not signal the same thing. In fact, boot camps signal very little. They're still kind of new and kind of weird. And so nobody super cares that you graduated this program. It doesn't have the same weight that a degree does. So why would you go here at all? It's because here it is about improving your ability, making you able to do a thing that you were not able to do before. That's really all that matters. So what this like means in practical terms is that I imagine that some of you were probably pretty good at college or high school or anything that like, here is a checklist of things that I can go down, I can get all the work done and get my piece of paper. No one outside of the school, other than like maybe mommy and daddy, like care about your Flatiron piece of paper. It just doesn't have all that much pull. However, what we have been able to reliably do is improve your skills to the point where no one really cares. We're lucky that software has largely like always been like a little light on credentials, or at least caring about credentials. This is definitely a field where skills speak, and so we can get you those skills. But you need to keep that in mind as you're going through this program, and that's the thing that you need to develop. Just making it through Mod 5 or something doesn't really cut it. All right, onward. Oh, this is a fun one. This is usually like the one thing that people know about cognitive science. There's 4 different kinds of learner. You have visual learners, auditory learners, reading and writing learners, and kinesthetic learners. Quick show of hands if you've heard of this idea before. Throw them up. Seeing a whole lot of hands there. Cool, about 2/3 of you. So this is also sometimes referred to as VARK. And you may be interested to know, complete bullshit. Super not true. This came out of a study that a dude did, I want to say early 90s. It was something that kind of made intuitive sense to him. And he's like, I wonder if I could design a study that would give me some indication on whether or not this is real. And so he did the study, and the results looked promising. And he published them. And the world just ran with it. And they're like, oh man, of course, I knew that I was a visual learner. And the other cognitive psychologists went, that's weird. People don't have different don't have different thalamuses. So what would be the mechanism that would cause this? And then one time after another, people tried and failed to replicate the findings in the study. The truth is that everyone is all 4 of these. These are different modalities of education. And one of the reasons this probably hasn't been like defeated soundly enough is that the implications of the VARK study were like, cool, so you need to design lessons that are multimodal so that you can hit your visual learners and your auditory learners and all that kind of stuff. The like actual way that this works, the implications are you should design multimodal education because all of these different modes help everyone deepen their understanding of something. There's not actually a different recommendation out of it, but I would recommend you stop thinking of yourself as whatever style of learner you imagine yourself to be, whereas all of these have something to offer you. So we'll do our best to help you drink heavily from all 4. Next, rich brain, linear brain. This one's relatively new to me, and I love it. So this has to do with, you might have heard of left brain and right brain. That's another thing that's not really true. You're always using all of your brain. but you do have two different modes that are substantially different. Your rich brain mode and your linear brain mode. And what's the important thing for you to know about this is both of them can't be on at the same time. They contend for the exact same resources. So if you're in linear mode, you cannot also be in rich mode. So linear mode is like very literal problem solving. When you're typing stuff out, you're writing things down, you're in linear mode. You're trying to put together the Legos that are in front of you. Rich brain mode is, this is you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, oh my God, I figured it out. Or your cool shower thoughts. Or it's every experience you've ever had is accessible through your rich brain. Now, there's a couple of complicating things on this that are sort of interesting. One is that your rich brain you can't choose to turn it on. You can invite it to turn on. You can't pick which brain mode that you're in. So some things that you can do to invite your rich mode to turn on are you can give your linear brain a super boring task, something that it doesn't want to do. It'll get bored and give up, and your rich brain mode will turn on. So this is the non-woo explanation for like why meditation works, or walking labyrinths, or deep breaths. Like a lot of those things are just a matter of boring your linear brain so that your rich brain can turn on. Another thing that's kind of curious is that your rich brain doesn't have language. That's a linear brain thing. So you're like, oh, I have this really cool idea, but I'm struggling to explain it. That's like a translation issue between those two modes. So practical implications for us in this program are that this is going to happen to you several times a day, where you get stuck on a problem that you're working on in linear mode. And you will be incapable of solving this problem because your linear brain is forcing the wrong context on it. And then you walk away for 10 minutes and you come back and you go, oh shit, there it is, right there. This will happen to you over and over and over again. And you'll resist it because you're in a hurry. This isn't a present that you do because like, oh, you love yourself so much, you deserve a break. This is the fastest way to get stuff done, is to walk away often. To do like some of the kind of woo stuff like meditation. Bryce, who's a recent grad, has been running meditation every morning for a while. Going for walks around your neighborhood. You will get problems solved faster by regularly inviting your rich brain to turn on. One more kind of interesting implication of this is it's why pair programming works. We'll start doing some of that tomorrow, but when two of you are working on the same problem at the same time, one of you can be in linear mode while the other one can be in rich mode. And so it's not a matter of like, well, we're typing half as slow because there's two of us on one problem. It's really like having a super brain work on a problem. Cool, I've been jibber jabbering for a sec. I'm gonna pause there and let you ask me any questions you want about rich brain, linear brain, signal theory, VARC, and that kind of stuff. All right, onward. We do not do grades here. Grades are stupid. So if you would like to read my my formal writing about why I think grades are stupid, it is on my website. But the TLDR is that we care about your mastery of a concept. For example, one of the things that you need to be able to do in this program, well, let's pull up the list. You need to be able to build classes and objects using Ruby. Can't do that, we're in a whole lot of trouble. If you can sort of kind of do that, we're still in a lot of trouble. You need to like be very confident in your ability to do that. So it's we're looking for A's all around. However, the trade-off to that is that there's this kind of like operational efficiency that schools are trying to achieve with grades, where they go, all right, well, I'm going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to assess you on it. Oh, C-. Better luck next time. Bye. Like, that's pretty terrible education. So what we want to do instead is go, all right, I'm going to teach you some stuff. Do you know it? C-, huh? All right, let's give this another shot. All right, we're up to a C+. What about now? B+, they're getting better. We want to use our assessment tools as tools to help you get to 100%. So this is called like mastery-based education. And a lot of it is based around cycles. So things like our code challenges, we don't grade those. You either did it correctly or you didn't. And if you didn't do it correctly, we want to use that as data to help you be able to do it correctly. But we don't do these like corners reports, so like report cards, or go like, all right, well, I taught it perfectly. Did you learn it? This is way more of a conversation that we have. So if you're looking for grades in this program, you will not find them. Let's talk about ZPD. So the zone of proximal development is a mental model for learning growth. We got 3 zones. Green zone, the one in the center, is the comfort zone. This is stuff you can do without any help. This is stuff you can do right now. Then the red zone is the stuff that you can't do no matter how much anybody else helps you. They're just effectively doing it for you if they're helping you at that point. So in between those 2 extremes is our zone of proximal development. This is stuff that you can do with some prompting, with some assistance, if somebody unblocks you a little bit. And that's where learning happens. Learning doesn't happen in the red zone, learning doesn't happen in the green zone. Now, what like the temptation is going to be in this program is to stay in your green zone. It's not called the comfort zone for no reason. It's super comfortable to stay there. And as you learn stuff, your comfort zone is going to get bigger. The stuff that you can do on your own, like, right? And you're going to want to hang out there. And my challenge to you is to hang out in the yellow zone. Stay in your zone of proximal development. Now, the unfortunate, like, logical consequence of this is that means that you're going to feel, if you do this correctly, uncomfortable for 15 weeks straight. Hell, like I was kind of alluding to at the top of this, it'll mean you'll feel uncomfortable pretty much your whole career. But if you can change your relationship with that feeling of being uncomfortable from like, I'm scared, I don't like this, I'm going to get caught, I'm going to be a phony. Well, everybody will find out that I'm a phony. Then if you can change that to like, all right, well, this is what I'm not comfortable with, so this is obviously where I should be directing my effort, you will have nonstop growth and you'll have whatever kind of career you want to have. That's where the winners hang out. Dreyfus model. So this is also like a relatively newer idea to me, and I love it. This comes out of nursing from the 80s. And I think upends a lot of expectations about how skills should work. So in this model, you go through 5 stages as you develop any particular skill: novice, advanced beginner, proficient, competent, and expert. And what's really instructive about this model is that what novices need and what experts need are complete opposites. They're not on the same scale. So what a novice needs is what we call context-free rules. Follow these instructions, do this thing, exactly. At advanced beginner, you start adding some context to it. You go like, okay, you can sort of see some of the patterns here, right? So you can apply different rules based on patterns that you observe. You don't get theory about how stuff works until proficiency. That's when you start making rules about how these patterns fit and which concrete actions are appropriate in different situations. So this is completely opposite to how like probably all the education you've done from 6th grade on has worked, where they give you a lot of abstract theories and expect you to specify them to whatever situation you're in. This is an in the outdoor problem. It's a complete opposite of how your brain is wired. What your brain does is it takes concrete experiences and extrapolates from them. You can't grasp a general abstract concept and then apply it to a bunch of concrete situations. Your brain makes the abstraction. I can't give it to you. And so a lot of the things that we do in this program are going to feel very connect the dots, color inside the lines, follow the instructions. We'll do plenty of theory stuff, but you might be surprised by how late it comes. That's very intentional. And to complete the Dreyfus model, once we get over to expert, we are looking for rule-free context. If you have an expert, you don't constrain them with rules. You don't tell them how they have to work. You tell them all of the context, and then they use their intuition and experience to figure out what the answer is. I would hope that by the end of this program, there's a fair number of things that you are proficient in. I don't expect that we'll get too much farther than that. But this is your career. All these individual skills fall somewhere on this spectrum. Cool. And I think we have a couple more things. So one of them is this. We'll call this tiny habits. When you're looking, let's say that there's some habit that you need to develop in this program. Here is my personal advice for how you achieve such a thing. Change a lot less than you think you need to. If you try changing a bunch of things at once, the odds that you're gonna stick with any of them is roughly zero. By contrast, if you can pick one thing, the highest leverage thing, and use your spoons, use your willpower to really make that stuff come to pass, that's how you're going to let that stick. And now it doesn't require any more effort. And so you can pick the next thing. So a lot of times when you're trying to pick up a particular habit to make you successful and it's not working because you're doing too many other things at the same time. I want to drop that one on you. You will notice in this program a very strong aversion to the word lecture. I don't believe in them. So lectures are sit and get transmission of information. This is probably the most like didactic, by which I mean like I'm speaking and you're listening, kind of thing that we do in the program. But again, my goal is to make you feel something. You can't effectively do that. You can't effectively transmit information that way. It's another like thing that's been wrong about probably your entire education from like 6th grade on. And if you're not doing the work, you're not learning anything. That's just the hard facts of it. And it's because of how this works. You are taking in sensory information around the clock. So like on my wall right now, I have 4 pictures in front of me. 2 of them are like pictures of my family. One of them is like this thing that I read every morning. One of them is a thing from the walls are white. I'm standing next to this piece of glass. So you're just getting bombarded with this sensory information. And it's your thalamus's job to figure out whether or not something is relevant. None of the things that I just mentioned are relevant. And so it goes, poop it out, doesn't matter, don't need it. The way that it figures out whether or not something is relevant is it looks at your existing neural connections and it goes, cool, do we have anything like this? Does this match something that we have some kind of like emotional charge about or have done in the past? Is there a shape that we can match this to? And so if we're just giving you theories. There's nothing for those theories to latch onto. If you've had these concrete experiences, the theories then have a pattern to match. So we still do instructor-led stuff. We do like activities, but our intention for those is to be very interactive, so that we are guiding you through concrete experiences more than we're drenching you in sit and get theory kind of stuff. And then last thing that I wanted to talk about in this section was the way that we structured this program. So employers need particular skills out of you in the job market. We try to represent those with standards. So examples of standards are these. All this stuff, Old Man Coberly thinks that this accurately represents what employers want. We have those for each of the modules. These are the standards for Mod 2. These are the standards for Mod 3. These are the standards for Mod 4. Once you have demonstrated mastery of all those standards, I think you're pretty damn employable. We measure whether or not you have mastered those standards with assessments. And then the way that you prepare for those assessments is with content. So it sounds kind of intuitive. The reason we're talking about this is that most education is structured the exact opposite way around. We find some interesting content, we put all that together, and then we write an assessment to see if you remember the things that we taught. And then we group those into units and try to find themes in there, and then cross our fingers and pray that employers care about the thing that we did. So we do it the other way around. Because if, for example, if our standards don't actually match the employer needs, it doesn't matter that we had a great assessment for it or killer content. You can cut the rope and everything else falls off. Who cares? Or if this assessment doesn't align very well to what this standard is, it doesn't matter that you were very well prepared for it. So what this looks like in day-to-day life as a Flatiron student is that we are way loosey-goosey on content. We try to be very disciplined about these other three things, but there are no required lessons that you have to go to in the program. There aren't required labs that you have to do. If you never do another lab again, but you can otherwise keep up with the material, bless. Ditto for like going to lessons. Now, the reality is like a lot of those labs are super good and will prepare you very well for the assessments. And a lot of the lessons, like you will get a lot out of them. We're really good teachers. But this will be, that part of it will feel way less structured than any other academic thing that you've probably been through, because we're just less fussy about it. I care that you can do this. I don't care that you did this. These are just tools to help you. Some of them are going to work well for JR, not so good for Johnny, much better for Rodney. And like, I don't feel bad about that. I think that's completely fine. And as this program goes on, you will start to figure out, this isn't a learning styles thing quite as much as you'll figure out what your habits support well. And I think that is all of our ed stuff. Yep. We talked rich linear brain. We talked signaling theory with college. We talked VARC. We talked ZPD. We talked grades. We talked how to build habits. We talked about why we do lessons, not lectures. We talked about the Dreyfus model. We talked about how your brain encodes neural pathways. And we talked about how we structure standards and assessments and content. So, ask me some questions about this. This is a shit ton of stuff I just dropped on you, and a lot of it is like kind of iconoclastic. So, what do you think? What are you curious about?
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys take a top-down approach when you look at how you structure your program, and you start with employer need and you try to produce graduates, right?
Correct.
That fit that need.
Yeah.
I think Eric asked a question on this earlier. I'm just curious on how fast technology, how fast these skills are evolving.
Yeah.
and how you guys respond to that. Do you see changes within the next 18 months or?
Oh, so
Yep.
such a good question. So part of the answer to that is in one of these other, the soft skills. These matter a lot more than your technical skills. You need to have some technical skills. This is like the min-max for your career. Project management, teamwork, problem decomposition, pairing, time management, learning to learn. If you can nail those, you can have whatever career you want to have in this industry. These were the same things 50 years ago that like made people successful in this field. So not every part of it moves quickly, and especially the learning to learn piece. If I'll give you a good example. Let's say I needed to pick up Go, which is a programming language. The whole industry switches over to Go, and I got to pick that up. I don't go back to school to do that. I figure it out. Another relevant example, when I started on this job, I had never written a line of Ruby or Rails. They didn't even ask. They were like, hey, you're a programmer? Like, yeah, like, cool. Man. And then they expected me to just figure it out, and I did. And so the tech stuff moves pretty quickly. I'd say we see like the industry look fairly different every 2 years, 18 months, somewhere in there. But what we like kind of wax on, wax off with in this program is the skills to make you successful in that changing environment. The chances that you will go into a job that has Rails backends and React front ends is like, that's probably not going to happen. But as you'll see with capstones in 3 weeks, like students in this program do just fine with Python and native mobile app development and all kinds of other stuff that like isn't really part of the program, because programming languages are programming languages. They're not actually that wildly different. They just emphasize different aspects of the same thing. The process of software development is radically different across different domains. And as far as like just actual content in the program, we dropped a lot of things that are in the like traditional Flatiron program that are even still taught on other campuses, that if I only have 15 weeks with you, that's not how I want to spend it. And so like I'd say that coupled with like feedback loop that we get from graduates, you know, like, oh, I just started my job. I really wish that I'd spent more time on that. I'd say in Denver in particular, we're very responsive to that kind of change. Oh, one other thing, the standards, that represents like a minimum. Everybody's gonna walk out being able to do that. You can also do way more. And you'll see starting tomorrow, like students will ask for lessons on stuff, plenty of which doesn't have anything to do with the curriculum. Actually, let me go back in the announce channel on this to last week. All right, graphs and React, not part of the curriculum. GraphQL, not part of the curriculum. Chrome extensions, not part of the curriculum. React Native, not part of the curriculum. Objection, not part of the curriculum. CSS animations, not part of the curriculum. So like if there is something wild and hot that you want to explore, we might be able to help.
Cool, thank you.
What else?
Because this class isn't in person, typically like whenever you have like a classroom or whatever, you can ask for like additional help. Does that still apply, although this is like online? Like, are you guys available outside the hours of class?
Outside of the hours of lessons, yes. Outside of the hours of school, not really. You're always free to ask, but we got to work way more sustainably than students do. And so before 9, after 6, if you ask a question, there's a not terrible chance that another student will answer your question, or an instructor will. If an instructor does, they're doing you a solid. They're doing you a favor at that point. But we have very loosely scheduled days, which we'll talk about in the next section. And so there is tons of opportunity for you to work with other students and instructors during the day.
Wow.
I guess going back to the like rich brain, linear brain, like that really resonated. Like I was immediately like, oh yeah, that's exactly where I was. Like,
Yes.
But so I guess I'm wondering, like you said, like meditation and breathing and just like walking. Are there any other specific? Is it just literally just walking away and doing something else? Are the best tools or
Doodling.
Okay.
So like
doodling? Okay.
I do mazes. I have like a giant book of mazes, and I do a thing called like deductive maze solving. So you color in all the parts of the maze that can't be true because they result in dead ends and stuff. It's a little bit zen. It's kind of like coloring, I guess. I have one that I've been working on for like a week. I mean, it's enormous, and it has like bridges and crossovers and stuff, but it's very like boring for my linear brain. And so it just gives my rich brain a little bit of time to crank on something. And I generate all kinds of cool ideas and like come to my problems a lot fresher. But yeah, that's one of the ones that I do.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, it feels like sometimes you dig deeper. You're like, and when you're no longer in that space, you think, oh yeah, there's no way I was ever gonna figure anything out.
Oh, totally.
But when you're in it, you're like, blink it, I guess.
Well, and like another thing that will happen to you, I mentioned that like you're forcing the wrong context on something and you walk away and come back. This could be something like you're not working in the right file. That's why it's not throwing an error because it's not even running the thing that you're writing in. And a lot of that stuff becomes immediately apparent once you walk away and come back. But because of the way that linear brain works, it locks in a lot of those expectations, and like for it to work effectively, you are incapable of seeing some of those things.
Yeah, and I guess I could see how that would, like being in that headspace could be confused with like being in a place of discomfort rather than like in your zone of proximal development.
Exactly.
And so you think you're in a learning space, but you're not.
No, exactly. Yeah, this red area is also very stress inducing. And this is another thing, you're physically incapable of learning something when you're stressed. There's a variety of things that shut down in your body when you get like flooded with cortisol. Like your fingernails stop growing. If you're running from a tiger, you don't need to also grow your fingernails. If anybody's a Star Trek fan, that's like, all power to thrusters or whatever. Redirects all your body's resources to like help you get away from the tiger more effectively. Learning isn't important in that situation. So when you get super stressed out, like it's time to stop because you're not going to take anything out of the experience. It's nothing worthwhile at least. One other like kind of neat trivia thing about that. That's another part of this process. So sensory input comes in. It also gets sent to your hypothalamus, which is threat evaluation. Is the piece of information that I got threatening? And your brain doesn't make any kind of distinction between a psychological threat and a physical threat. They're identical as far as like the brain is concerned. And so sensory input comes in. Is that a tiger about to kill me? Is that person threatening my identity? Is that person that I thought was my friend not actually my friend? Like that, that information comes in and it goes to your hypothalamus also, which does that threat detection and is responsible for like, all power to thrusters, we got to get out of here. That's your fight or flight or freeze response is there also. And so if something like that happens to you, you have to de-escalate. Like the learning ain't happening at that point. So you got to de-escalate, get back to like your regulated level, give another shot. Other questions about ed theory stuff?
No. Building habits and just like building one at a time instead of all at once. So like when you were learning to learn, what habits helped you the most?
Oh, sure. So I do the habits thing pretty seriously. So some ones that I've done this year, I did 6 weeks every day, meditate every morning. That was a really helpful one. I did 6 weeks, no cell phone, which was awesome. That's one of the ones that like really stuck well too. I was shocked at how much my little Black Mirror was ruining my life. And I got by absolutely fine, 6 weeks no phone. It was hard for like 8 hours. A lot of these, like I had one that was like journal twice a day. That one was difficult. I actually screwed that one up like 3 weeks in and had to start over. The cell phone one, that was like having a spell broken. I had one that was don't go to restaurants for 6 weeks. But like for learning to learn, I would say that, hang on. Hey, Miles, come in. You guys are about to meet one of my other students. Come here.
That's what I just got from Beetle.
What did you just get from Beetle?
A drink that gives you 4 hearts.
A drink that gives you 4 hearts?
No, it gives you 4 yellow hearts.
4 yellow hearts? Way to go. You want to say hi to my students?
Hi.
What's your name?
I'm Miles.
Cool. All right, Miles, I got to finish teaching my class, buddy.
Okay.
Good luck. Yeah, I have 2 kids. That's Miles. He's 4 and a half, and I have an 8-year-old named Duncan. So stuff that really helps me is solid morning routine. Another thing you can do about like morning routine, every morning I like do my ablutions, like brush my teeth, take a shower, that kind of stuff, and like more or less the same order every day. It helps me like lock into my rhythm. I practice guitar every morning for about half an hour, and like having a really firm footing for my day helps a lot. I just had another one that I think would be really helpful for folks trying to get in the habit of learning to learn. Journaling, that'd be a really good one. Reflecting gives you another pass over your sensory information and deepens your neural network. So like having a neural network is what knowing something is. And so when you reflect on it, that neural network gets stronger. And that's what getting better at something is. So those are some ideas. What else?
So when we fail, which is probably like not even an if, but when,
Yeah.
What's like the best thing to do when that happens? Like what kind of steps should we take?
Oh man, what a great question. So some recommendations is like, try to separate the emotional response from that. You're trying to take a step back. So this is something that isn't biologically true, but the metaphor still kind of works. You have 3 layers to your brain. You have like a lizard brain that like gets hungry and goes to sleep and like gets freaked out and wants to run from tigers, like that kind of stuff. You have a layer on top of that called the limbic system that's like emotions. And then you have a 3rd layer called the neocortex. This is your self-actualization, your thoughts, your like reflection, like any of those kinds of things, metacognition, thinking about thinking. And when you fail, there's a pretty good chance that you have an emotional response to that. You can't control it. Like it's, I had a t-shirt once that said, emotions are never wrong. They just happen to you. The thing that gets us in trouble is the actions that we take in response to those emotions. So in a lot of the same ways that we can invite our rich brain in, what you're trying to do is like, you can't get rid of that emotion. You can't squish it. You can't make it go away, but you can get bigger than it. You're trying to get back in, put your neocortex back in control. And so 10 deep breaths, that's like a pretty good trick for that. And then you want to look at why did that emotion occur? Why did I feel so bummed out that I screwed this up? I'm new. Try to figure out, like, I'm allowed to fail. Like, I knew this was going to happen and it just did. So I don't feel so bad about it. And like, try to be very loving with yourself with those emotions. But if you make a habit of analyzing those emotions, then you're going to develop a shorthand with yourself where you go, oop, I failed and that emotion happened. And so here's my trick for dealing with that emotion. I am going to go for a quick run. And every time I do that, I feel a lot better and I'm able to put big brain back into control and keep going. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge with failure is separating out that emotional response from the truth. Oh, here's another trick for that. That helps separate out the emotions is looking at the exact, like, non-interpretive, concrete details of the thing that triggered that emotion. To go like, I failed. Oh my God, I knew I wasn't going to make it in this business. I wasn't good. I'm not a math person. And so like, that's the story you start telling yourself. Take your 10 deep breaths. And you go, okay, the actual facts of the situation are that I'm working on a new concept. I found out about this yesterday. I had some early successes. I did 10 things in a row that were like doing pretty good. And then on my 11th one, it feels real, draw the rest of the fucking owl. And I tried it and I tried looking something up and it didn't work. And I tried something else and that didn't work either. Those are the raw facts of the situation. And when you look at them like that, they don't earn the emotional response that you had to it. Doesn't mean that your emotional response was wrong. That's never the case. But you look at what happened in between those facts and that emotion that you think generated that emotion. And that's your filter, and that's the thing that big brain can work on. That's a super good question.
Thank you.
Anything else about Ed stuff? Cool. Here's what I'd like you to do right now. I want you to take 5 minutes and write down in Slack, in a Slack direct message to me, your biggest takeaways from this part of the talk. This is part of that metacognition reflection. We're deepening some neural pathways. I'm putting 5 minutes on the clock. Your biggest takeaways from the last hour and 15 minutes. A Slack message to me, go. Another minute and a half. All right, slack me what you got, and then let's take another 5 minutes. Bio break, go for a walk, drink some water. Let's be back in 5 minutes, and we're going to talk about boot camp stuff. Cheers. See you then.
Hey Kyle, are you a gamer?
Not as much as I'd like to be. I was talking with somebody about this the other day. I was looking through a lot of stuff from when I was a kid, and I was thought of as like the video games guy. And I don't know, something changed. It's like part of it was like, I got married and had a family and like was super career obsessed for a while, and then other people got really good at video games, and so I am not competitive, but I do like playing. So I am currently on like hour 250 probably of Breath of the Wild. I'm doing some of the DLC right now. I recently finished Hollow Knight. I've been playing Dead Cells a lot, and I'm not very good at it.
Bro, I love Dead Cells.
So
I love Dead Cells. Oh, it's so good.
I'm like, I'm pretty blocked on 3 boss cells right now, but I still like the game a lot. For PC gaming, I like the Deus Ex franchise a lot. I like Call of Duty, but I'm like across the board terrible at it. And it's like, I'm not new. I have several hundred hours in that game. I'm not getting any better. Any kind of puzzle platformer, like that stuff's catnip to me. Any like Metroidvania kind of thing, catnip. I play a little bit, but no, I think it like stopped being like a part of my identity a while ago, though.
So if you like Metroidvanias, though, you've probably, if you haven't played Symphony of the Night, you at least know of it. Like, that's kind of like, okay, so the studio that did Symphony of the Night recently just put out a game called Bloodstained.
Cool.
You should take a look at for sure. I love Metroidvanias too. I'm only on 1 boss cell on Dead Cells, so you're doing better than me.
Okay, that's good. Like a big piece of advice I got was like actually learn how to use shields, which was really helpful, especially like in those later levels. You kind of have to use shields, but they're not very. That's not a very fun way to play, and it's kind of hard to get the timing right. Cool. So let's get back. Thank you for such thoughtful takeaways in that first section. Thank you so much for sending those to me. All right, let's talk about boot camp stuff. So I'll preface this by saying I hate the term boot camp. Always have. I think it's just I don't know what exactly it is about that term. I think it implies something kind of like short and surface, and like I think a more accurate way to put what these kinds of programs are is like it's transformational education. So education is designed to make you effectively a different person, and that's I don't know. I feel like boot camp kind of undersells it. So you'll hear me refer to code schools a lot. That's my preferred term, but whatever. When in Rome, I didn't make it up. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is our staffing model, because it's different than every other Flatiron campus. In fact, I'm not aware of another school that does this the way that we do. We have all of the staff teach all of the students. And the way that it works on most campuses is you guys would have a dedicated lead instructor like me or Damon or Ahmed. You'd have dedicated coaches. So like it might just be like me and John Higger, or it might be just Ahmed and Christine. And you would teach like all of just one cohort. Or I think there's some campuses in Flatiron where like, I will teach Mod 1, but only Mod 1 to everybody that comes through. So is it like, there are actually some things that work okay in that model, but it's brittle. It's what everybody wants right up until their favorite instructor quits. Or like a coach like gets a full-time job. In case like Brian didn't mention that this morning, the coaches are contractors. They're here for 6 months. And like at some point they need to go on a job search. And if they get a job, but they were your coach, then you feel like shortchanged. By having everyone teach everyone, we get a few benefits. First, we mitigate the damaging effects of something like that. Or if there's just like a staff member you don't get along with or a staff member you super get along with. This gives you so many different exposure points to like different perspectives, different styles, different personalities. And it enables us as a staff to have much more useful conversations with each other about what your progress and stuff looks like. And so I've been staffing that way for about 4 years, never going back. This is such a healthier, more robust way to run a school like this. So that's what we do. Let's talk about the basin. So the shape here is like going to represent your likely emotional state over the course of the program. So right now we're here, and as you develop new skills, things are going to get better and better and better, and you're going to be more and more pumped about the program. And then sometime, probably around mod 2 or 3, you are going to feel exhausted. Like you can't do anything and you can't go any further and you're just going to feel like shit. That is like, I mean, 700 students, I've seen this 700 times, like without fail. It changes in like how high the peaks are and how low the valleys are, but it's the same shape every time. And the, a big cause of this is as you're, so I mentioned it's transformational education. You're becoming a different person. That means that whoever you were before kind of dies. And new you is born. Well, guess what? Death is painful. And like your brain doesn't go down without swinging. And so as you're losing some of your old identity and gaining this new identity, the brain fights back. Starts telling you really nasty, shitty things like, ha, 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 I knew you wouldn't make it. You'll never be anything but a waiter. You think you can hang out with all these eggheads, and you actually thought they scammed you. You thought they were going to turn you into a software engineer in 15 weeks? Yeah, right. That's where a lot of that negative self-talk is going to happen. But if you keep going, all you have to do is just not quit. If you keep going, it'll get better and better and better and better and better. And then you'll make your peace with this. I've also heard some people say that they see this shape like a wave within a wave. They're like, in any particular week, it'll start out great and then like get really shitty by Wednesday and then feel like awesome by the end of the day on Friday. Also pretty normal. So me telling you this doesn't stop it from happening, but recognize that when you're in the basin, 700 people before you have also like been in the basin, and if they kept going, they came out the other side just fine. I mentioned earlier that like your premium skill that you come out of this program with is learning to learn. So right after we did the name game, I talked to the capstone students about capstone requirements. And one of them is you have to use some technology that we don't teach in the program. And the reason for it is when you're out there looking for jobs, you can't constrain yourself to like React and Rails. Like it'll be you and like 150 other lazy boot camp grads like fighting over the same job. So what I want you to do is to be able to look for a job that you think looks cool and don't worry so much about what the tech is. But what they're going to say is like, cool, have you ever worked with C#.NET before? Have you ever worked with Python? Have you ever worked with Java? And if you say, no, but I'm a fast learner, you just got your application thrown in the trash. It doesn't cost you anything to say that. Everybody says they're a fast learner. So instead, what you want to be able to say is like, no, but I also didn't know Django before I started my capstone, and look at this thing I was able to make in 2.5 weeks. That's the answer to that question. That's how you show that you're a fast learner. And like, you will be able to do that. You'll be able to pick up a new technology. Capstones in this program, we've seen video games, we've seen augmented reality stuff, we've seen mobile apps. Oh man, like to this day, it's I think maybe the coolest capstone I've ever seen. We had a student a few cohorts back at Flatiron who was a linguist, and she made an app that generates languages. So you pick like a sound set that you want it to have, and you pick a grammar system, and you pick a character set, and it like generates audio examples of like what the language will sound like. So you can have like German's grammar with Hawaii's sound. It's so crazy. And so like, especially if you can tap into other interests you have and that sort of stuff, that's the learning to learn. We have to teach you how to learn with something concrete, remember, but the abstract takeaways that we're trying to develop in you over these 15 weeks are that a lot of these patterns and shapes are the same. And we want to reduce your fear level with using technology that you haven't used before. Do not try to have a job during this program. That is like an express way to fail city. And a question earlier about like, how many people have washed out of the program. Just about everyone that's tried to work. And this includes like, oh, but I do a little bit of Uber on the weekend or like stuff like that. That's another way in which this is not college. This is an immersive program. It's like, it's pretty consuming. Now, that's not to say that we got hours of homework every night and you're doing projects and shit every weekend. I actually don't believe in homework. And I don't believe in weekend work either. I want you, but that doesn't mean that like that energy is freed up for you to spend on something else. You need to take care of yourself. You need to sleep. If you're not, there was another like habit that'll make you successful in this program. If you have trouble with like your sleep schedule, this is a time to get that figured the fuck out, because if you are operating on 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, like that's another like no retention, not a whole lot is getting learned at that point. You will have like, okay, so let me give you some examples of like people that have tried to second guess me on this one. I had a student who was a landlord, not even like that hands-on a job. That dude fell asleep at his stove and caught his tie on fire and almost burned his building down. I had another student who was actually doing like professional programming work on the weekends. He like had some PHP background before the program, just picking up some side gigs here and there. That dude had a heart attack. He was 29, like not like otherwise in poor health. Was a Flatiron student, one of the first cohorts. She was a nurse, and she's like, oh, I pick up a shift here or there on the weekend. So like after some failed code challenges, and then like, I don't know, by the end of the program, like, guess what? Still a nurse. And we haven't managed to like turn that one around, but holy shit, like don't do this to yourself. It's like financially, you cannot make that work right now. I'd like see if you can work something out. See if you can beg, borrow, or steal. See if you can like sleep on someone's couch or something. But this is a like both feet in kind of program. If you're trying to like keep one foot in your old life and one foot in your new life, this is going to be a way more painful process than it would be otherwise. Cool. Also, we don't sell jobs. You still need to do a ton of work. This is another thing that like, I think the marketing materials on a lot of this stuff is like not awesome. So here I am, first day. You still need to do the work. You need to do well in the program. You need to develop the skills that we're trying to develop. And then after you graduate, like graduation is really like a midway point in this process. Then you got to start going to the job hustle. And the job hustle is exhausting, way harder than job searches in any other field, because these are super well-paying jobs that have almost no gates kept on them. And so like a lot of people looking to break into this field. And like, we can't do the work for you. We can set you up for success. We can make introductions, but fundamentally, like, it's your job search. Now, that said, the one thing that I think differentiates Flatiron School from every other code school out there is how good the career services department is. You get a dedicated career coach. I'm not aware of another school that does that. You have like things that you are held accountable for, like making applications and writing blog posts and stuff. That set you up for so much success. Like this is seriously the premium value add of this program is that. So if you do all the stuff that we ask you to do and you do all the stuff your career coach asks you to do, I have like an extremely high level of confidence that you will have a job in the advertised time frame. That like 97% placement rate or thing, it's not bullshit. It is super true. But like, it's not a reward you get for checking the boxes. It's hard fucking work. I had mentioned that your soft skills that you develop in this program matter more. This isn't my opinion. This is all of the employers that we've ever talked to. This is every like industry pipeline report that I've seen. It's stuff like this that really makes the difference. This is not, and this wasn't always the case. This industry, especially startup land, does not reward talented jerks very well anymore. This is a team sport. This is not like, well, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get good at programming. And so I nailed all the computational stuff and the squishy stuff. Let a lesser developer do that. We say that attitude all the time. Those people have the hardest time trying to find a job. And likewise, if you're extremely strong in all these areas, but you're a little bit weaker in the technical areas, people will give you a ton of grace if you can bring this kind of stuff to a team. Let's see. This is a just kind of an overview of what the structure of our weeks look like. So this is week 1, week 2, week 3. We do content all the way through here. We open up code challenges at some point in the second week, usually pretty early on. But I'm sure Brian talked about this morning, the code challenges aren't tests. We're not trying to figure out whether or not you're a B-. We're trying to figure out what you still have left to learn. It is not expected that anybody passes a code challenge the first time around. It's why we let you do it every day. This is an ongoing assessment of what we still need to teach you, what gaps there are. And if that's not a win by Friday, cool. Then we have like a slightly different format for it in the third week where you're just sitting down with an instructor. And the thing that we're trying to figure out with those code challenges is it kind or cruel to move you on? If you can't hang with the material, we're not doing you any favors by just continuing to push more shit at you. So we want to look at that as like, all right, everybody is coming in with different background. Some of you are probably not even super proficient computer operators right now, much less programmers. Some of you might have done some professional programming and you're just trying to like go a little bit deeper. Those are wildly different starting places. And so if you need more time with the content, we want to give you more time with the content. But that's not failing. That's just the way that we can get a variable length program through regulatory. And so if this ends up being a 15-week program for you and a 21-week program for someone else and 27-week program for someone else, well, that like in a lot of ways just reflects that not everybody's starting in the same place. But it's not something that like, it doesn't show up on your like piece of paper. It's not a thing that we look upon poorly at all. It's just a matter of, is moving you through the content at this point kind or cruel? Cool. Actually, I want to talk about this one after we talk about freedom. So this is a very loosely structured program, and you will see that starting this week. And there's a lot of like very intentional reasons for that. A lot of this is, we can like borrow from the ed theory stuff a little bit. You might even see some like various Flatiron things that refer to constructivism. I'm not an anti-constructivist, but I'm way more of a humanist. Three like large families of like school pedagogical approach: humanism, constructivism, and behaviorism. Like I borrow liberally from all three of them, but like at my core, I'm a pretty hardcore humanist. So your experience with humanism is, if you have any, is likely limited to the work of Maria Montessori. Montessori education is like pretty by the numbers humanist stuff. There's also a guy named Carl Rogers that wrote extensively about this. But a lot of the big takeaways from humanist education is that learning is more meaningful when it is largely self-directed. Because if I start telling you what problems you have and then telling you how to solve those problems, you start second guessing your own judgment. I want you to experience these problems yourself and then like discover solutions to them. And it's funny, they did a lot of, like you really only see Montessori education in elementary school for no good reason. They've done it with older kids and they've done it with adults, and it also produces outstanding results. And so that's like, so to give you an idea of what this looks like in practice, I have a hunch what you guys are going to be doing tomorrow. I have no idea what the school is going to be doing tomorrow. I for sure have no idea what any of us are going to be doing on Wednesday. There's no schedule for like when the lessons are, any of that kind of stuff. In stand-up, that morning meeting that we had, every morning I'll ask, what do you want to learn today? And this can be stuff that you're struggling with in the material. This could be stuff that's not normally in the content, but you're curious about it. And like some of them are things that we see from your data that you need. So especially earlier on, we'll make some suggestions in there about what we should offer up. But it is so important for you to have agency in how this works. Not even just from like Kyle's goofy anarchist shit, but like from like a learning efficacy thing. The fact that you can choose to go to a lesson or not go to a lesson changes everything about how you approach that. If you get bored in a lesson or you're just not feeling it, leave. If you're late for a lesson, all right, well then show up halfway through. Like we'll try to make the best of it. But we don't have a whole lot of like rigid systems. What we try to do is look at reality as it is and try to make the best uses of our time based on that. So based on the last 14 cohorts we've done at Flatiron where we've done this kind of thing, this usually induces panic in at least some proportion of you in the first week. You get a little bit more used to it by the second week, and by the third week, you'll never be able to hang in any other educational system ever again. We've had people who like try to go back for like masters and CS programs and like quit after a quarter. This is stupid. So like drink the Kool-Aid on this one. It'll take some getting used to, because it is like starting tomorrow, you're going to have so much freedom over how you spend your day. And it's going to feel like too much at first, but you can handle this no matter what your background is, whether you come from a super rigid background or not. You'll figure this out, I promise you. And it is like very intentionally designed in the name of helping you learn more. Some other examples of like what this freedom looks like are project requirements. The first one has like a couple of guardrails on it. The second, third, fourth, and fifth module projects are make a web app. That's it. And if I had gotten to design this program from the ground up, that would be the requirement for all 5 of them. That's kind of the long and short of it. I don't tell people what technologies to use. So if in Mod 3 you want to do a Vue app with a C++ backend, I'm not stopping you. There are a lot of different ways that you can experience the content. So like we do like instructor-led activities. We also have warm-ups, and we've got videos of damn near every lesson we were taught here. So I'll send you guys the link to this site. But so many lessons, hundreds of them. And if you are struggling this week with something like Ruby, the search has been a little bit slower. Hey, what do you know? God, that's a lot of lessons on Rubies. Taught by your favorite instructors, taught by instructors you haven't met, taught by me, taught by Ahmed, different subspecialties. There aren't any secrets in this program. Like, this is probably every lesson we've taught. If you want to see what a Mod 4 lesson looks like, here they are. We try to do our best to tag them up, make it a little bit easier to find. But if you just want to hang out and watch videos, God bless. If you don't watch any videos and want to go to instructor-led stuff, cool. But we give you, if you like third-party stuff that like we didn't teach, all that I care about is that you can do this stuff. And so here's the process for this. You're going to, these are the modules. When you go to the module, you roughly work in these standards in order. You go, okay, cool. So this is what this is about. How will I know that I've mastered it? Why, here's an assessment. Once you can confidently do all of these things, I would say that you have mastered this standard at the level that we're expecting you to be at. Every single topic in this program has infinite depth to it. We could do 6 months, we could do a year and a half on like programming proficiency in Ruby. And so it's going to feel like a lot of the time you're moving on before you're ready. That's another thing you'll get used to. If you can do the assessment, it's time to move on, even if like you don't otherwise feel that you've exhausted the depths of whatever the topic is. But so much freedom on how you accomplish that. All right, so now let's talk about the personal empowerment protocol. So as you're going through this content, as you're in these instructor-led things, as you're watching the videos, you're going to have lots of questions. So the Flatiron Personal Empowerment Protocol is these 4 steps. Step 0, read the error. This is what we spent a lot of time with Mod 1 students in the first 2 weeks. You've been conditioned to not look at errors. That's like the thing you send the IT guy, or like the thing that you read the person over the phone. Well, guess what? That's you now. You're the IT person. You're the one that the error is for. That's the only way the computer can talk to you. It's trying to tell you what's wrong. So like step 1 is like breaking the habit of ignoring the error message. Especially in Ruby, a lot of the errors are like very plain language telling you precisely what the problem is. So make sure you read and understand the error. Now, in fairness, a lot of the errors are noisy as hell and have a lot of stuff that isn't relevant to what the problem is. But you'll get faster at scanning through the error and like finding the thing that's written for you. So once you've read the error, try to formulate a question that you could type into a search engine. So I was just saying last Friday that the process of formulating the question answers it about half the time, and that's totally true. If you can figure out how to ask your question, like take a second and look at that first, because you might have answered the question just in how you worded it. But then ask Google. Tell Google a story. What's wrong with your thing? And there's a pretty good chance that somebody has a Stack Overflow answer waiting for you. Let's say that doesn't pan out. That seems like a good time to ask a neighbor. Now, when we were in person, that would be like literally like turning your head over and be like, hey, can you give me a hand with this? In remote, there's still opportunities for that. That could be DMing someone. We try to like create opportunities for you guys to just hang out in Zoom rooms all day if you want to. And that might be some, hey, can somebody just hop in a room with me real quick and help me figure this out? But in a lot of cases, steps 2 and 3 end up being about the same thing. We have a channel on the student Slack called Denver Tech Questions. So Denver Tech Questions, which I think all of you are in. If you're not, you absolutely should be. This is it's both of them. Ask your question and Sometimes an instructor will answer it. Other times, student asks a question, students got answers. And so one of the things that's kind of curious about this is like, why would I want to help another student? That's distracting me from my own learning. This is your own learning. You can be like selfish as fuck, be in this program only for yourself, and you should try to help other people out as much as you can. Because when you learn something, you only know what you had to overcome to learn that. You don't take into account all the like prior knowledge and experience or stuff that just happened to work out to you. When you see what somebody else struggles with, that's when all the things you take for granted, all the things you can't really put into words or explain, that's where that starts crystallizing. And you go, God, how well do I understand this actually? It's one of the most satisfying parts about being a teacher. It's where the depth comes from, being a teacher. So now like a thing that takes some getting used to is how long this cycle should be. So I want you to wrestle with stuff. If you're not doing that, you're not staying in your zone of proximal development. You're just skipping right to red. So I want you to wrestle with something a little bit, but a little bit is on the order of like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then start to this process. What bums me out is that like, well, I was getting errors for about 7 hours and then I finally decided to ask for help. That's a poor use of your time. Wrestle with it a little bit. You can set a timer if you want to, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you're not making progress, that's where the zone of proximal development kicks in. Ask for some support. See if you can get somebody to unblock you. Cool. So PEP. Talked about not working, talked about learn to learn, basin, soft skills, selling jobs, freedom, personal empowerment protocol, and that's our bootcamp stuff. Ask me some questions about it.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
I'm super curious on what the pairing looks like, the paired, what do you call it, the pair programming. Can you just walk us through an example of how that flow goes? Was it 30 minutes? Like,
so there's varying schools of thought. Pairing comes from a approach to software development called XP, which is extreme programming. And in extreme programming, the thing that's extreme is you have things that are good ideas, like writing tests before you write code. Or they found that like, all right, well, the quality of code that comes out of pairs is much higher quality than the code that comes out of two individuals. So if that's the case, how come we don't do them all the time? So in XP, you do not write code by yourself. You exclusively write code with pairs. You don't write code that doesn't have failing tests for it. You always write tests first. So that represents like one extreme of that. On the other end of that, you get the like, well, we would never pair because why would you have two people doing one job, which is wrong-headed. And then a whole lot of spectrum in between those. I would say where most places generally fall is I pair when I'm having a problem. To the other, like closer to the XP side of it is I pair when I'm being creative. I don't pair on like procedural kinds of things, but anytime that like I really want to make sure that I'm like writing high quality code and exploring a lot of alternatives, I'll pair. So what the process looks like is most common structure for it is a thing called driver navigator. So driver is the person who's actually writing out the code. The navigator is the person telling that person what to write. And what we find is that when you're a navigator, you're worried a lot less about syntax. You're thinking big picture. What are the big Lego pieces of this? Meanwhile, as the driver, you're focused heavily on syntax and how you express the thing that your navigator is saying. Now, in practice, the person who's driving can like also come up with ideas. It's a conversation. And also, the person navigating will probably catch your syntax errors before the driver will. And that's just another way that it speeds up software development, because stuff that you'd be racking your brain because you just can't see that you missed the semicolon or indented something wrong, your navigator will probably find that first. But that's the general structure of it, is that one person is deciding what to write and the other person is writing it, and then you switch back and forth every 15 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever. An extreme version of pairing that I did and loved at that VR company is called mob programming. It's like pair programming, but it's the entire team. So my team of 5 people would sit on a couch with a wireless keyboard and mouse in front of a giant TV, and we just pass the keyboard around. And you'd have like all of us looking at the problem. And what was so cool about it is that you get this like contextual leadership. Someone would get an idea and then kind of like navigate for a while. Someone would get tired of driving or need to go to the bathroom or something and just pass it off to someone else. But the entire team understood the entire code base so much more through that process. And like a lot of bad ideas got killed immediately. And a lot of great ideas, like other people got to like one up off of and like spin off other cool ideas. That's kind of the general like process of pairing. Other questions about this? Cool. Just like before, let's take 5 minutes. I would like you to Slack me your biggest takeaways from this part of it. Then we're going to take another break and go into the culture piece. So 5 minutes, write me some takeaways. Go. Another 2.5 minutes. All right, go ahead and slack me what you got. And then let's take another 5 minutes bio break, drink some water, go for a walk, and I will see you back at 4:09. Okay. Thank you again for your super thoughtful takeaways from that. Let's talk about this last thing, culture piece. This one will be a little bit quicker, and then we'll have an activity. So first thing, there are parts of this program that are going to seem goofy as hell. Things like the clap or the stand up and stand down, the hackathon. You'll do 2 hackathons in the program. There's a lot of these things that are just going to feel like a little childish and silly. I am begging you, like, just dive in on it. You won't regret it. No one ever does. And it will make the program better for you and everyone else. So one of the like aspects of this is when you're new to a program like this, there's like a very natural desire to sort of like control how you're perceived, and everybody's kind of doing like a cool facade of like, new group of people. Maybe this time they'll think I'm cool. And I'm telling you that you're not going to be able to keep that up for 15 weeks. Everyone is going to figure out how like weird and broken you are at some point. So the quicker you can get over like maintaining your cool facade, that makes it safe for other people to start doing that too. And then we can like get to work. Because otherwise it's very exhausting to like, well, nobody wants to talk. And so it's a super silent lesson, or nobody asks for things during stand-up, even though everybody wants something, but they don't want to look like the person who didn't know because they assume everybody else knows and they're the only one who doesn't. So as soon as like you let go of that, this entire program gets a lot more fun. Now, the one caveat that I'll put on that is totally appropriate things to be like open and vulnerable about are, I don't understand this concept at all, or I'm worried I'm not going to be able to get a job, or I am having a really hard time getting up on time. Those are like, or like, I am super into fucking anime or something like that. That stuff is like exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I once had a student who like took that a little bit too far and was like, hey everyone, let's work on our like emotional development stuff together. Awesome. We had a staff member there supervising the first time, seemed super healthy, so we let it go. And in the second session, it was like, what's the most traumatic thing that's happened to everyone? And like, this is not what I'm talking about. We like, none of us are trained therapists. We don't have those resources on staff here. Absolutely not trained to deal with that kind of stuff. I believe that there are some services that are available to you as students. I have a therapist it's my coach, man. Like she's like the most important lever on my success. I've seen her for 2 years now. Like I can't imagine like not having that coach now. Everybody needs coaches. You probably do too. If like you're worried about hurting yourself or something like that, there are resources that Flatiron makes available to you. If you have like some like damage you got to talk through, that's not what like using the broader community is a super good thing for. But pretty much any kind of professional related anxieties, like let the community help you shoulder some of that. Also, I mentioned the like, I'm not here to make friends thing. That is not a profitable attitude in this program. This is your first professional network. I've been to cohorts 4-year reunions. I have seen people in their 3rd and 4th and 5th jobs be, hiring managers or VPs of education, or VPs of technology, or like any number of things, and be like, man, do I want to work with Paige again? she was my partner in my Mod 2 project, or I worked with Katie on a hackathon, and it was awesome. So, like, take the relationships that you develop in the program seriously, because they might literally pay off for you. And at a minimum, this program gets a lot more doable when you use each other as resources, both technical and emotional, to get through this. As I mentioned, bite in on the goofy rituals. Like, a lot of them serve a very specific purpose, and it gets a lot more fun when you just like let summer camp be summer camp. And then lastly, don't hide. This is a really common like spiral that we see. You have an off day, and you feel like everybody else is getting something and you're not, and you're really embarrassed about it. And so you don't go to lessons and you don't participate in any of the community stuff. I just need to heads down on this one thing. Once I get caught up, it'll be better. But then you don't get caught up, and people keep moving ahead, and then you get more ashamed of that, and that just shame spirals. And then we find out in the code challenge that like you're in really rough shape. So don't do that. Speak up. Something you feel like you're not getting, there's help you need. You just want somebody to look over something that you did. Like, this is not a program where hiding does very well for you. The more like open and out front you are about things you're not understanding or things you need help with, the faster those things get resolved. Cool. I would like everybody in this program to be mature and inclusive. So here's what I mean by that. As far as maturity goes, I'm not talking about the like, be professional. In my experience, be professional is something that somebody says when they want to get away with doing something evil and don't want you to tell them that they're doing something evil. So, and it's not like no swears or something, obviously. Like, I had a boss who's from New Jersey like 15 years ago, and it just rubbed off on me. I swear pretty freely. Now, you don't have to. The thing that's important is that you're authentically who you are. If that's not who you are, like, that's completely fine. I want you to be who you are. If like you like letting loose with some F's and S's, then like, God bless, like, you be you. But I don't want you to make somebody feel threatened or marginalized. So I do want you to be careful with your language in that regard. Like, it's one of the things I teach my kids is that no such thing as bad words, only bad intentions. Or like, be aware of your capacity to create harm with your words. Now, what's inevitably going to happen is that somebody is probably going to cross some line, and they will make somebody feel marginalized or just in some way hurt the community. So the maturity aspect of that is own up to it, and then ask for forgiveness. What I would ask of all of you is be like ready to be forgiving, and then move on with your lives. Like, that's what I mean by being mature, is taking responsibility for the hurt you cause, and being willing to like make sure that somebody feels like they're still in the love bubble after they've made a mistake. So like, for example, a few cohorts back, we had somebody who's like, name game name was like kind of on the line, but it made somebody feel uncomfortable. And so this is like day 2 of the program. They like stepped up and were like, hey, I really wasn't being very thoughtful about my like name game name that I chose. And I wish I could take it back. So please forgive me. And then we all moved on with our lives. So be sincere about it, be thoughtful. But I'd way rather you be authentically who you are, be willing to make mistakes, and being willing to own those mistakes, than being too scared that you might make a mistake so that you never fucking participate in anything. That sucks. So the inclusive part, the next part of this, is being inclusive is like a verb. It's like an active thing you do. You choose to make people feel welcome. So you could contrast this with like tolerance. Like tolerance is a pretty low bar. That person's different than me. That person's quiet or that person's loud or whatever, and I'm okay with that. I would like you to go the next step and make them feel awesome, make them feel like they belong here. So when we were in person, that was things like, hey, the next time you're like going out to lunch, look for somebody that doesn't look like they're hanging out with somebody and invite them along, especially if you haven't like spent a bunch of time with them. But that's the magic of the love bubble. That's how this whole thing works. So yeah, like go out of your way to look for people who, I don't know, it's usually not anybody's fault or anybody doing anything wrong. And sometimes people want to be alone, and that's completely fine also. But make sure that everybody has opportunities to like be part of a gang. So remotely, that might be like, I'm going to talk about events in a second. Like we've had remote movie nights where like you just synchronize a movie or something like that and everybody watches it together. Just make sure that everybody feels like they're welcome to participate in that kind of stuff and feels like you're glad that they're there. So this is like kind of part of this. Asking for help makes you vulnerable. Like it means like I can't do this on my own. I'm struggling with this. Somebody else might be getting it, and that's the thing. Is like oftentimes the thing that you're not getting, like very few people are getting. But it takes some vulnerability to reach out and go like, I need help. But that's like a by definition necessary part of being in your zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development is the stuff that you can't do without help. I am asking you to be brave and strong and be willing to, potentially look like you're the only person who doesn't get something, and call that out. Because when you do that, that also makes it safe for other people to do it too. And that's the culture that we want to maintain here. Cool. This is less of a problem online, but whatever. I met my wife online. We've been together 17 years. So don't date each other. 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 Do not date each other. Holy shit. The amount of damage you can do to like the cultural fabric of a program like this by like crossing that particular line. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You could propose to somebody at graduation for all I give a shit. But for the next 15 weeks, do not try to date each other. Oh my fucking God. Don't. Like 7 weeks in, the idea will sound absurd to you. You guys are gonna all like get to know each other like more brother sister level kind of thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't try to do it. Off limits. Do not do it. And I think that's all I have in the culture stuff. Ask me some questions about it.
So with the remote cohorts, have there been any other like ideas besides movie nights yet? Anything else yet? Like, is that something that maybe we should try to think about, or?
So the one thing that we did have was we absolutely did not, because this is hard banned by Flatiron. Instructors are not supposed to see each other. Students are not supposed to see each other. We do not endorse any of this kind of shit. But people that look suspiciously like the students and staff of this school get together at Sloan's Lake Park every once in a while. What else have we done? Meetups. So Denver has like probably the best meetup scene in the country, probably the world, really. There's probably some kind of meetup every night of every month. And there's like a couple in particular that like I never miss. I never miss the Develop Happy Hour. That was last Tuesday. It's the second Tuesday of every month. No agenda, no speakers. It's you just get put in random groups of like 3 or 4 people and you chat and hang out. like it's a networking event, but networking is a pretentious way of saying make friends. So you should go and make friends with people. You can talk about code stuff or not. Like I like talking about the Broncos. I like talking about jazz. I like talking about all kinds of stuff. You're just looking for things that you have in common with people, you know, like making friends. And so like if you go with other people, that's another opportunity to be inclusive. Invite people to come to meetups with you, makes them a lot more fun. There are like some activities they're usually couched in meetups, like Code for Denver is a good example. Code for Denver is nonprofits looking for people to do like pro bono web development work. And so like we've had a lot of success with students making teams or joining teams for that kind of stuff. They're also really good portfolio pieces. If there's like other things like that that are, you know, more cultural events, like, I don't know, concerts, or hey, like I'm really into stand-up comedy. And a lot of stand-up comedy is like happening remote now. So inviting people to that kind of stuff. Throw it into the announce channel. That kind of stuff's cool. Or Ben dropped into your channel and mentioned that like he made a new channel, which you guys can do, by the way, for, I did like a demo where like I took a screenshot of a site and showed how I would make that in CSS. And Ben was like, ah, shit, I'm really bad at that. I'd like more opportunities to practice. And so he like started a club for recreating pages from websites. It's called like Imposter Club or something like that. Forgery Club. So like there's some ideas for stuff you can do. Or we had one student who started a game night. This is when we were in person, but that became like the Denver like video game meetup, like for just like the broader community. We had another student remote who does like Smash Brothers tournaments once a week. So there's some ideas. What else?
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
So I look at the culture stuff here, and I really don't know how else to say it, but a lot of it is kind of what you would expect. So I'm curious on, you know, how the culture here is different from some of the competitors.
Oh, sure. So I'm pretty familiar with the culture in a lot of other places. Some of it's just like, this is my industry, so we talk. Some of it is like, I have former students and former instructors that work in a lot of these places. So like a lot of the bigger ones in particular, I have some insight in how their culture works. Hack Reactor does not have a culture. Hack Reactor is this like, I ain't here to make friends. So like, if you're not familiar, Hack Reactor is like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Which is just cruel and stupid. Like, it's like, that doesn't, one of the things you'll notice is like, by about 3:30, like your ability to retain stuff like plummets dramatically. So the idea of doing that 12 hours a day just to say that you did because you're in a hurry, like that's not cool. That doesn't mean like you get a different brain that can accommodate something like that. And it like literally started as I finishing school for Stanford CS grads to help them get jobs at FANG companies faster. So like I wouldn't say that they especially have like a student or a staff culture. They also don't have any teachers anymore. So if you were between this and Hack Reactor, well, you picked right because their last teacher quit. Like it was one of my former instructors and students. He quit like a month ago, and based on how aggressively they're trying to recruit me, have not found a replacement yet. Yeah, they look at my LinkedIn, they're like, wow, you have the perfect background for this. It's weird. It's almost like I've done the job before. Turing has a very strong culture, but I don't know. I feel like it's also very dramatic. One of the things that like Turing always dings us, or like specifically programs that I run for, is like, it's a party school. And it's like, well, it seems that way because we have a good time. Like, I don't think they have a good time there. Turing culture has always seemed like relatively severe to me. So like, we like really encourage you guys to get involved in Denver Devs and go to meetups and stuff. That stuff is like distractions at Turing. I don't think that's accurate at all. Let's see. Lambda is a toxic culture. Like that is, I don't know how, like it's not a very good school, but they are like, but by contrast, Turing is a great school. Like I have very little bad to say about like how they structure their program. It's way more like structured and constructivist than like is my taste, but they have consistently good outcomes, and like they actually have an educator in charge of the school, which is not the case in a lot of places. Lambda is a mess, and I feel like their staff has been dishonest to their students enough times that it's just like everybody is trying to figure out how to sue each other like around the clock there. I can't believe they're still in business. They've also had a lot of regulatory issues, which doesn't necessarily mean that like it's a bad school. The regulators in this space are also a mess. They don't know anything about education. They're a consumer protection agency, essentially. They're trying to make sure that we are providing the thing that we say that we're providing, and we're kicking you out if you're not any good. That's like 100% of the regulatory body's jobs. They don't care about curriculum or like how we get that done. But they get really fussy about things like ISAs, which we had to stop doing because the California, the BPPE went bonkers on Lambda for ISAs, and now like nobody's allowed to do them anymore until like it was one of those things like, hey, whoa, your industry came up with these things and universities want to do them too. That sounds like a pretty good idea. Cool. Until we come up with the necessary regulation for this, everybody stop doing them. Unreasonable. Trying to think if there's any other code schools that have fun cultures. GA, I don't know, like GA is a little bit light, I think, on the academics. So for one, like most of their instructors are just some programmers that they found. And then they have them like read the slide decks that they're given. And so that ends up being real hit or miss. Because one of the reasons that like I lean so heavily on coaches in programs like this is the likelihood that I'm going to find an excellent educator while running a program full of career changers is very high. Like teaching is the most like plurality common job in America. And so like I got a pretty good shot at finding a good educator from like a grad. My chances of finding a good educator in the general developer population is incredibly low. It's not like it's a career. It's not like a box that you check and you go like, I can swim, I can run a 10-minute mile, and I can teach. It's a whole thing. And so like everybody that I've interviewed that's like, yeah, I'd like to teach, I think, it's just been a complete mess. They usually just want to be little professors. And that's kind of like, I think what's plagued General Assembly for a long time is they get little professors in and they do their best impressions of college professors. And the results are super mixed. But like they've also had some like killer educators come through there. Like there's a guy in Denver named Zeb, I'm forgetting, but he's like an old Teach for America alum, and like that dude was solid. And also I think he's good with like fun culture stuff. And General Assembly more broadly has been killing it on events programming lately. and I think their UX program is actually pretty solid. Their software engineering program a little bit less so. But yeah, I guess that's how I would contrast us with some of the big alternatives.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can we ever, like when I was working towards this program, I would meet up with other people who were like learning to code or like already know how at like coffee shops and stuff.
Yeah.
Program, do you think it's ever possible to work at a coffee shop, or do you think we need to like be at home in our workspace?
No, all your bliss, man. This is awesome. We do that every once in a while. The thing you want to balance that with is like, so we'll publish a schedule for the day every morning. You want to like make sure that like your Wi-Fi can handle whatever choices you are making for the day. But no problem with that at all.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
There's actually even a meetup for that. That's like twice a week, I think. I forget the name of it. It's on Christine's list. But it's exactly what it is. I think they used to go to Whole Foods. It might be all remote now, but it's just like, come help me with some project that I'm working on right now.
Awesome, thank you.
What else?
Yeah, my question was, it seems like the Denver campus at least has kind of created its own culture from the ground up.
Correct.
So how does that differ from, say, like the New York campus or the Austin campus? And are there things that those campuses have borrowed from this campus?
Yes, outstanding question. Our culture is substantially different than most of the others. There are some things that I outright stole from like existing Flatiron stuff. So we do a thing on Friday called Feelings Friday. It's kind of like group therapy, a little bit lighter than that, but I don't know, people cry and stuff. That was something that like co-founder Avi came up with that is just absolutely inspired. I love it. I never miss it. The stuff that we've come up with that other campuses are starting to do is like that new technology requirement for capstones. That was a thing that I started doing at Galvanize. And I got in trouble for it at first, but now all the campuses are doing that one. I'm seeing more campuses do this. All the students, or all the teachers teach all the students. More of that kind of approach. I've seen more campuses start keeping their videos. It was nuts. Like most campuses record all the lessons they do, and then as soon as the cohort graduates, they throw them all away. It's nuts. I just did a lesson for some of the other lead instructors on how we do lesson planning, which is substantially different. One of the ways that we can do this like very responsive, like instructor-led thing is that we have a particular system we use for lesson planning that's crazy fast. Most of our lessons we can plan in like 5 or 6 minutes. The other campuses do lectures, like traditional TED Talk style slide decks and all that kind of stuff. And they're exhausting. Like I also do those kinds of presentations out in the community. I do a lot of public speaking. And I mean, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours to put those things together. And I think that they're really effective in making people feel a certain way, not very effective for like developing ability. And so I've started seeing some interest from the other campuses and doing that kind of stuff. We do a lot of surveys here. You're about to get your first one shortly. We do like multiple layers of surveys. There's a survey that like happens after every mod that like the company sends out. And like, that stuff's cool. The ones that I really care about are the ones we send out every day. And that's like our tight feedback loop on who's having a hard time, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well. And there's another campus that just started doing that last week. Yeah, so there's some examples. Oh, like one major difference is that we do our mod 2 and our mod 3 completely different than every other campus. And some of that was like, if I got 15 weeks with you, I'm not spending 3 of them on this. And that is starting to get some traction across the company as well.
Cool, thanks.
I guess this isn't really a question, but the looking at that like kind of Bayesian curve thing, I think the fact that you do surveys throughout that whole process is quite interesting.
Oh yeah.
I have a bit of a product management background, and we're told to do a win-loss analysis at the peak of that. So, you know, with it, you're selling any service, you've just bought, if the customer's just bought something, they're feeling really optimistic about it, do your survey then.
Yes. You nailed it, because I used to do these things every 2 weeks, and all I would hear is like how the last day went. It's like much less useful for me. Yeah, and it also like lets us target specific interventions at like when it's timely. So if I see you say something shitty on a survey, I can go, whoa, that's just a misunderstanding. Let's get that cleared up right now. If I don't find that out until 2 weeks later, that just festers and stews, and then you get other people pissed off, and like, especially if it's like it is a lot of the time, just a misunderstanding. Or it's a thing that we legitimately screwed up, and like, give me a chance to apologize while you're still mad about it, rather than like before it's just festered and put you in a bad mood for 2 weeks. Other questions about culture stuff? Cool. So writing activity on this one's a little bit different. So we're gonna write 2 letters. So your first letter is going to be a letter to your family and friends. Well, let me pull up the prompt for this because it's a good one, and I always forget how it goes. Okay, so for this first letter, you're going to write a letter to your friends and family. Explain that you need to spend as much time as possible programming and working to change your life. If they want to support you, the best way they can do that is by helping you spend as much time as possible on this. Maybe that means releasing you from some obligations for a while. Maybe that means helping you get your laundry done or making sure that you go to bed at a reasonable time. Your time is at an extreme premium right now. Explain that you might be a bad friend for a while, but you need their help to succeed. So I want you to spend some time writing that letter. We'll put 7 minutes on the clock. Go.
Do we type this in a DM to you, or?
No, this one like
just type in like a notepad or something?
Correct. You don't need to send this one to me. But spend 7 minutes writing it. It'll be good for you. Another couple minutes on this one. All right, pencils down. You can come back to this one if you want. All right, second one. Here's the prompt. Another letter. Write a letter to yourself. Come back to this letter when you need encouragement. Whatever you think you'll be bad at during this course, mention it. If you're bad at getting to bed on time and waking up in the morning, then encourage yourself to take your sleep hygiene seriously. If you're bad at hitting the books when you get home, tell yourself how important it is that you focus. If you're scared you won't understand and are doing a bad job, remind yourself that this is hard, you will struggle, but you know you can do it if you spend enough time on it. If you're bad at asking for help, remind yourself that you're a learner and it's acceptable to need support when you're learning. Write down what you will have wanted to do so that your future self can live up to your expectations. All right? Work on that letter for a little bit.
Hey, Kyle. I know that we're writing this out right now. It's crazy. I was literally doing this to myself last night.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's kind of weird to put it into words, you know what I mean, talking to yourself a little bit, but
I know. Powerful though.
yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is.
Cool, pencils down. So if you didn't finish those and you have more to do, you can do that for school today. Up to you whether or not you send that letter to your friends and family, but people have done it in the past and like said it helped communicate this idea. I also know like people have talked about referring back to their letter like down in the basin. Awesome, so we're coming up on the end of the day. What other questions do you have for me? Cool. So I'm going to send out your daily survey. I am putting this in the Denver Announce channel. Oh, in case like, I don't know if Damon mentioned this when you guys were in Slack setup. Your Flatiron School Slack account and your Denver Dev Slack account don't have anything to do with each other. Have you ever played MMOs before? Slack started as an MMO chat tool. So the different teams are like different realms or servers or whatever. So channel names, usernames, like all that stuff is like unique for each one of those. You can run both of them on the same like Slack client, like your app. But on the Flatiron School Denver SE Announce channel, I try to come up with a funny song. Somebody told me that you had a survey that looked like a survey that I took in February of last year. There we go. It's sent. So this survey, it's every day, but it's quick. If you don't have that much to say, like it's like a couple seconds. I want to know how you're feeling. something you're taking out of the day, at least one thing, and then whether or not you have any feedback for the staff. So you don't got a lot to say, you're done in 3 seconds. Hopefully, if you do have a lot to say, like you'll feel like it gets read, because I try to address any questions that people have, or things that come up in the comments during stand down, which we'll do right after this. Yeah, it's the most valuable feedback tool that we have. Cool, so that's out. Go ahead and take a second. I would guess that stand down is probably going to start in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, somewhere in there. Look for the link in that same channel. It'll be right under the survey, and I'll see you guys there. Welcome to Flatiron. Hey, cheers.